Hi everyone, welcome to our regular Q&A session, and I'm very pleased to welcome here our coach Michelle. So Michelle, how are you? Haven't seen you in a while.
Hi. Yes, it's been a little while. Thanks for having me today. I'm happy to be here. I'm doing really well. How are you doing these days?
I'm good also. That's great to hear you're doing well. So, perfect. I think we can jump on the questions already.
Sure.
We don't have any live questions, so I hope the
Not yet.
audience, not yet, so I believe
Yeah.
the audience will grow and we will have really nice questions. But there is a question from our YouTube follower, so
Okay.
I will post it here. I just made a banner and yeah. It's a question from Tobias Moped, and he's saying, I'm experiencing that setting my alarm clock stresses me out. So, as soon as I am trying to keep a steady time for getting up and restricting my sleep so that I am not awake for too long. And to that, I'm having even harder problems falling asleep again.
Yeah.
Yes, so what do you think, Michelle? When someone sets the alarm clock, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, that's really common when we're going through all of this. There's so much fear around not sleeping. We feel so much pressure to sleep, all of it. And so often what you're describing is the experience that so many of us have, especially if you've had an extended period of time where, let's say, you weren't using alarm clocks, which is totally okay, by the way, but you're out of the habit of doing that. And all of a sudden you're trying to pick a wake up time, set the alarm. And it's like that can suddenly introduce this pressure, like, oh my gosh, now it's like I have this, this set time. I've really got to make sleep happen, all of that. And even subconsciously, our brain can go, get a little freaked out, like, oh, there's an alarm set, right? This thing, right? I remember going through this too. It was like the first time I started setting an alarm, I was okay with it, but my scared brain was like, what are you doing? This is not okay. So I think just normalizing it is the most important part of it. And also knowing that the reaction of having some elevated fear around that and some anxiety come up is normal. And so often our response to that is to then go, well, then I shouldn't set the alarm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like, well, no, that's completely normal. Instead, you want to start to go through a process to actually begin to teach your brain that's scared that the alarm is safe. The experience of having the alarm set, of having a wake up time set is actually safe. And it just doesn't know that because it hasn't gone through that learning process with it yet. So the moment, if you pull away and go, this is bad because I had this reaction to it, then your brain never really gets a chance to learn that that's safe and okay for you. And so I would recommend pick a time that actually feels right for you, that works with your schedule, as opposed to a time that is extremely rigid and isn't actually giving you enough time to sleep. So we're not talking about creating a rigid sleep window or anything like that. So just picking a wake up time that makes sense for you, and then really focus on expecting that you're going to have some anxiety come up around that, and use it as a reason to practice how you're actually perceiving that, moving through that, which I know is always a bigger discussion, but just to kind of start things off, kind of see if you can begin to maybe think about it a little bit differently, and know that this response, it won't be forever. It just will be
Mm-hmm.
until your brain figures out that this alarm is okay. It's not a threat to you. It's not a threat to your sleep or anything like that.
Yeah, perfect answer. Thank you very much, Michelle. It completely makes sense. And
Yeah.
I just normalize it. It was
Yeah.
Tobias, right? I had the same experience. Like anytime I had to set my alarm, I was so
Yeah.
scared. Like, oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Now I have only like I don't know 8 hours to make it to like fall asleep.
Yeah.
So I was afraid like by this time I have to fall asleep, otherwise I'll be tired, and otherwise I have created these
Yeah.
so many scary stories if I don't fall asleep within this sleep window, because very often what I got during my insomnia was like this surrender sleep, which is sleep
Yeah.
like very close to the wake up time.
Me
And
too.
I was so afraid, like, what if I fall asleep and then the next moment my alarm clock goes
Yeah.
off? I was like, no way. But just everything what you said, Michelle, makes complete sense and just addresses
Yeah.
exactly this topic. So thank you.
Yeah.
And actually, we have quite a few very nice questions already,
Okay,
which
great.
is great. Yes. And we have a question from a series. Hello, coaches. Hello.
Hello.
And here is a question like, does lack of sleep affect the brain's mental abilities on the long term? So what do you think, Michelle?
Good question. So this is a really huge topic, of course. So we won't be able to dive super deep into this one, but so yeah, she's saying a lot of resources affirm
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah.
Information, which is very triggering, which I completely understand. So there is a lot of information out there talking about how sleep loss can impact, let's say, memory. There's even a lot of studies out there linking sleep loss to things like Alzheimer's. And we talk a lot about this in the context of actually looking at how these studies are done. And right now, Veronika, I'm thinking, oh, how do I answer this without going really deep into the long answer of it?
I
But
know.
I think the short answer is knowing that a lot of the headlines you're seeing out there, and they are talking about how insomnia is going to cause Alzheimer's or memory loss or anything that's around decreased brain function. And there really aren't any studies that are showing causation. And so you're going to see a headline that suggests causation, that this has been proven and this is happening, but it really hasn't. And so the tough part around this whole space, this whole sleep space, is that the types of studies we would really need to show causation around these kinds of issues are really impossible to do ethically. So the studies we have, while they're not great, I think the unfortunate part is how they're marketed, and that's a little bit misleading. So the hard answer is we don't really know. We don't really have proof or evidence for these things. And we know that, sleep deprivation can cause some short-term changes in our memory and things like that. Nothing permanent by any means. And I think that a lot of the times when we read this stuff, like you mentioned, it's so triggering because it is. And then we start really worrying and we get really scared about it. And that to me is so much more impactful. Any of these the headlines, if that makes sense, right? We go into the intense worry and fear cycle of it all, and that I think that's generally much harder on us than anything else.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of, I know that's not the ideal answer of like a straight yes or no, but there is a gray area with this space that I think is under acknowledged.
I think what I would add is actually something that I have learned from you, and it was a big aha moment for me. And this is what you explained to me. Like you shared, like it would be unethical to really do these types of studies, because in reality, these types of studies are based on like a few people who just share like, okay, I'm not having a good sleep and so on and so on. But in reality, you would need like a group of people that you would make sure that they sleep for a long period of time, and then the group that you would have to make sure that they don't sleep for long periods of times. And this is really, just like you said, it's impossible and unethical. So this was like a big aha moment, like on what really are these studies based on, right? So but also I would like to also add that our brain, when it's in survival mode, it's like pushing away the short-term memory because it doesn't need it for its for survival, right? So it's really focused on, okay, this is a threat and I have to take care of it. So it's really, really very common thing. And as the hyperarousal decreases and as we move out of insomnia, it's our memory capacity and abilities, they come back to the original levels from the periods of before insomnia. And just also to support like this idea, it really it's very normal. Also from my experience, I remember like during when we are going through insomnia, we cannot really like not live our lives. To some extent, we have to a little bit push ourselves and seeing people, meeting people. And I remember like I met a friend like some years ago, and I was still in my insomnia struggles. And she asked me, "Hey, do you remember you came to see me when I had a new baby?" Like, what? Me? No way. And at that time, I struggled with insomnia, and I had no memory of it. Like visiting my friend during such an important life event, like like she had a baby. So I just want to normalize this for you. It's very normal, but the memory levels will get back to you. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Can I add one more small point to that? Is
Go
as
ahead.
well, these issues of, let's say, brain function on any level, it's so much more complex and nuanced. There's so many more inputs, right? And so what's tough about even the studies that we do have that are observational, just meaning people are answering questionnaires, and we're all notoriously bad with actually knowing how much we slept, assessing like all these things. We're not actually, and studies have shown we're not very good at that. And yeah, they also don't really control for any of those other really important variables, if that makes sense. There's so much more complexity and so many more lifestyle factors. So again, it's a big gray area, and we don't know for sure. And it's, but a lot of that short-term stuff you're noticing doesn't indicate, oh gosh, that's where I'm going. Like that's the road I'm on. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I know. Such a long answer.
Yes.
I know it seems like a really simple question.
Right.
It's a tough one.
Okay. So we have a question from Niha. Hi, Niha. So how long does it take for the hyperarousal to go away? I came across your YouTube 2 weeks ago now, so you're brand new. Welcome. And I feel much calmer about my insomnia and trying to tell myself that it's okay and there is nothing. The fear, so my brain can believe it. It is. Or I go to bed feeling calm, but then I still get hyperaroused at night when I can't fall asleep quickly. How long is it for the hyperarousal to go away? So, Michelle, what do you think?
Yes, it's one of those questions that really can't be answered. There is no set timeline for insomnia recovery, or in this case specifically, how long does it take for hyperarousal to go down? Everybody is different. It depends on so many things. And so often the thing that helps the most is to take the time pressure off of yourself. You know, that's a tough one, but there is no such thing as a timeline. It just doesn't exist. So the more we try to put that time pressure on ourselves, ironically, the longer it takes. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and just one more question from Niha. Why am I still getting hyperarousal if I'm convinced my brain there is literally nothing to fear? I can't take it anymore. So I can answer. Basically, we have like more parts of the brain, but first we have this logical part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, where which is very important, like to get the education about insomnia, to know that you are safe, like logically. But there is also the emotional brain, which is like really our amygdala, and where are stored our emotions and fears. So it really takes time from the logical brain to teach the amygdala that there is nothing to be afraid of. And it's not only about telling ourselves, I'm safe, while you are still doing like a whole bunch of sleep efforts. And like we say here, we don't teach our brain by what are we telling it. We teach our brain by how we show up, right? Yep. So how we show up to our insomnia. So when your brain sees like, okay, on one side you tell yourself I'm safe, but also on the other side you drop slowly the sleep efforts, or you just change the intent behind them. This is the way how to teach your brain that being awake is safe. So see how you can befriend the wakefulness, and I believe you will get there, Nia. Okay, great. We are doing quite good, I think.
Yeah, we're doing great.
Yeah. So we have a question from Michael. Hi. How does someone befriend wakefulness when you have tinnitus? Tinnitus is a really thing that keeps you awake compared to a perceived, like the fear of not sleeping. So what do you think, Michelle?
Yeah, I relate to this. I've definitely had tinnitus. I know I say it wrong tonight, tinnitus. I won't even go there. I'm just going to say it my wrong way. But I've had it. I've had it as well. And believe it or not, it in large part can actually come from that same fear response. It can be a hyperarousal symptom. I'm not saying it always is, but it can be. And even tinnitus that's coming from, let's say, hearing loss is still going to be made worse, sort of louder by our own stress response with it as well. So even if it's not solely based on the fear response, there's still going to be a really, really strong interaction there. So yes, it can definitely keep you awake. That's true. It can be really loud, really frustrating. And the biggest challenge is because it's so unpleasant, what most of us do is we fall into a bit of a pattern with really fighting it, hating it, fighting it. How do I make this stop? We just in general have this really adversarial relationship with it because we really want it to go away and leave us alone. And it tends to just intensify the tinnitus. We might even start finding that it's the loudest at night. Or sometimes with me, sometimes it would only show up at night, which is a really interesting indicator, right? Okay, you're only here, when the sun goes down. Or you might find just for yourself that maybe it's there all the time, but it's more prominent at night. So the first thing, the most helpful thing you can do is start to notice how you are actually relating to your tinnitus and see just what your default reactions are. And ultimately, you want to start to change how you are perceiving that sound, how you are responding to that sound. And I'm not saying that in the moment that's going to make this big difference, but over time, you will teach your brain that sound is nothing to be scared of, and intensity will go down as well. And so sometimes I know with myself working with it in this way, completely eliminated the tinnitus over time. And that's actually the case for a lot of people. There's a book that I like recommending to people on this. It's called Rock Steady. And it's all about tinnitus. It goes pretty deep, but it talks a lot about how it's connected to the fear response, whether or not that there's a hearing loss element involved, how connected it is to how we perceive and respond and how important it is. So for now, as much as possible, see if you can accept that this is a symptom that's disrupting your sleep. And yes, that's frustrating. And how do you want to choose to perceive and respond to it going forward, knowing that can make all the difference?
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much. I always learn something new from you, Michelle. So
luckily I've had so many symptoms.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Okay. We have a question from Brandon Anthony. Hi. Hey guys, I'm currently stuck with the intention behind me doing anything. So even trying to befriend wakefulness seems like an effort. It's hard to make my brain believe that it's okay to sleep 3 hours. I think I can start. And sometimes we can get stuck in this kind of actually, I think we have a similar question in the last Q&A in Coach Alina called it decision paralysis. When we are looking for the best right decision possible, but this is going to keep us stuck. And when you are just really trying to do anything and think it in a way, what would be the right way to befriend wakefulness? It's going to be a little bit tricky and creates another layer of pressure and another layer of struggle. So if you can see, or if you can choose something and do what seems to be the path of least resistance for you in any given moment during the night, this is great. Because when you are really looking for the perfection, which is very common among us who are trying or in the insomnia recovery journey, it can just get you stuck. But this is not looking for the perfection is the best way. And you wrote also, it's hard to make my brain believe that it's okay to sleep 3 hours. You cannot force yourself to believe that. This is just impossible. Insomnia recovery is just an experiential learning, and you need to experience that despite you slept 3 hours, but you still were doing okay the next day. And also, not counting hours could be really helpful, right? So,
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah. And all the health influencers going to talk about sleep being tied to health. I've been stuck here for so long.
Yeah.
Okay, one suggestion: give them unfollow.
Yeah, Brandon, really similar to actually what we were talking about before, with one of the other questions around the impact of sleep on cognitive ability. It's the same idea with health, right? We're not saying that, oh my gosh, it doesn't matter, it's no part of it at all. But at the same time, it's such a complex dynamic issue. There's so many different inputs and variables, and the research is just not there the way that you'll see in headlines. That's the problem, right? What's being marketed to you, especially from health influencers, unfortunately, they really are wanting you to click buy whatever it is. So a lot of times you are getting really inflated headlines. And I find if you actually go and look at the studies, and I know people, it's a lot to ask, and so I'm not suggesting that, but just to let you know, often the way people will present in market studies, if you read the study, it's not really what the study is actually sharing. So it's either being inflated or there's some misinterpretation. So again, we're not saying no, there's zero impact and we've proven that. It's more, listen, this is a gray area, but if you look at it as a more complex, like your health is not just one variable. It's not just about your sleep. There's so much there. And it's so easy to become hyper-focused on the sleep part of it. And that's unhelpful. So you're right, Veronika, when you said unfollow, if that's where you have a lot of stress and pressure, unfollow. The unfollowing might be the best thing you do for your health.
Yeah. Great. Okay, shall we do one last?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, perfect. We have a question from Rachel. Hi, Rachel. Hey there, coaches. I haven't slept normally in 6 days, although I do think I have microsleeps because of vivid dreams. Can I overcome this sooner, or do I have to wait it out? So what do you think, Michelle? What's the right strategy here?
I think I'm interpreting the question right, but there's, just like we were mentioning earlier, there's no real timeline for this stuff. Mentioning that it's really only been six days. So really what I would say is it's great that you found the channel and some education so early on. That's wonderful. And, really a lot of the information on this channel is focused on understanding your insomnia, beginning to accept your insomnia and respond differently to it, because ultimately that leads us where we want to go. And so just like what we were mentioning earlier, throw the timelines away. This idea that it has to be short or long, just throw it away as much as you can and just focus on how you are relating to all of this and what you believe about it.
Yeah, exactly. I believe the key is the education, to know exactly what is going on and what basically your experience we call hypersleep, which is very common. It's when people feel like they have vivid dreams and the time feels like it's skipping, and it's very common. It's nothing unusual, and it's just like sleeping. Like it's when present like sleep drive and the hyperarousal, right? So. You always sleep more than you think, and when you experience this kind of sleep, so you can find comfort in this, and kind of like normalizing it and being okay with it, and having this non-proactive approach towards I want to change it immediately. It's the most helpful, because if you just kind of like wait it out from the point of view like I'm not going to add more fuel into the fire, like adding more anxieties, what's going to cause it, what's going to be the where is it going to get worse, or like really like catastrophizing, or just believing the thoughts, just like you said, like believing, like to see what the narratives are you telling yourself about this. I believe this is the way how it could be weighted out,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We have a from It's Mila. Hey, and
Hey,
how are you doing? Yeah,
good.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you're well too. Okay, so, right. I think we are done for today, Michelle. It was
Great.
really great seeing you and talking to you. And I'm looking forward to see you next time, guys. Bye.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.